Joining me now from Washington, D.C., representing Kentucky's 4th Congressional District, Congressman Thomas Massie. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. Congressman, I wanted to get your reaction to the canvassers in Wayne County who were threatened and doxxed. This is just unbelievable in America that this would happen.
It's despicable, really, and it benefits nobody. I don't know why the left thinks it's in their benefit not to certify all of the legal ballots and to make sure that this was a fair election. Because, you know, 66% of Democrats 2 years after Trump's election thought that Russians had tampered with the ballots. We don't want to be in that sort of situation. It's in everybody's interest to get to the truth. And to resort to derision and duress and deception like they did with those canvassers there in Michigan, that's just wrong, because we want a fair answer and we want the right answer.
Yeah, and your thoughts on how the media is handling all this. You know, they were ready to call Biden the winner even before Election Day, and they continue pushing through with this. They're really excited about this whole transition process. But the election hasn't even been certified yet, and there's obviously legal challenges, and these are legitimate. There's real concern about voter fraud in several states. There's so many examples of it. Dead people voting, ballots mysteriously popping up in Georgia, thousands of ballots. Yet we're all told not to believe what we're seeing.
There's definitely a double standard. I mean, even here in Congress, one of my colleagues from New York, Lee Zeldin, he's up 20% in his own election, and they will not call the race. It was like statistically impossible for the Democrat to beat him at this point, yet they will not call the race in his favor. Yet on the other side, the Democrats and the left and the media, especially the mainstream media, are ready to declare Joe Biden the winner. Look, Al Gore we gave him, out of courtesy, he had until December 13th back in 2000. We need to give our president the same respect and the same time for his lawyers and his investigators to crawl through this, and for the canvassers in Michigan to make unbiased decisions before we call this election.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I wanted to shift gears here and talk a little bit about COVID-19. Obviously, there's been some good news when it comes to vaccines, but a lot of people are really concerned about what lawmakers are doing in states across the country, specifically when it comes to these COVID-19 restrictions over the holidays. Thanksgiving, we see in some states are telling you you can't have more than 10 people at your house, or even 6 people at your house. Now they have curfews for businesses. 10 p.m. apparently COVID-19 runs wild right after 10 p.m. So, I mean, this is really disturbing. I think it's totally out of control.
It's out of control, especially in my home state of Kentucky. Yesterday, Governor Beshear announced no more than 8 people for Thanksgiving, and he shut down all indoor dining in restaurants as winter comes. I mean, some people have pavilions at their restaurants, but he shut down all the indoor dining when it's getting cold in Kentucky. I think it's ridiculous, and to add insult to injury, I mean, I think he was trying to claim he's being fair, but he's offered $10,000 per restaurant as a consolation. That won't cover one night's receipts at some of these restaurants. I've talked to restaurant owners who are going broke. They may not be in business when he's done with his lockdowns in Kentucky.
Absolutely. And I was looking at this article from Vox. It says the next COVID-19 super spreading event. It's Thanksgiving. Yet, you know, Vox isn't going to talk about the premature Biden victory parties out in the street where Democratic lawmakers could care less about the virus because, you know, they needed to go celebrate that victory. Virus doesn't matter then. And they don't talk about Black Lives Matter protests, people out on the streets. They don't talk about that. They're very concerned about Thanksgiving.
No. Yeah, there's definitely a double standard here with the Democrats. I mean, just look at the governor in California. He's out partying and having a great time. Nancy Pelosi getting her hair done in the hair salon. You know, the rules are for everybody else, not for them. And I think it's ridiculous to make rules that even they can't abide by, yet that's what they've done.
Yeah, you were talking about the governor of California. We've heard so many different stories on that. First, that the dinner party was outside. Well, actually, it turns out it wasn't outside. And the party was so loud that they ended up having to, like, close the doors. And there were several people there. He apologizes and says he shouldn't have sat down. But you think about the people who are being fined, the businesses that can't operate because of Newsom and his rules, and he can't even follow them. How do do you think regular folks who've had their businesses shut down and those who can't send their kids to school, those who don't know how they're going to pay their bills at the end of the month feel about this?
They feel horrible. They're frustrated. They don't know what to do. Just like I said, the reason our governor picked on restaurant owners is they have to have a license to operate. And even though he doesn't really have the constitutional authority, in my opinion, to do what he's doing, he is able to take away their licenses, their liquor license and their restaurant license. You know, Stephanie, one question I've had is if Joe Biden is declared or certified the winner by the Electoral College, are we all going to honk from cars at the inauguration? Are we going to sit in white circles? I mean, I want to know how that's all going to play out. Or is he going to would he do an inauguration from a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, well, we've heard him talk about national mask mandates, which doesn't, like, why would you have to wear a mask if you're out in the middle of nowhere? Not everyone lives in big cities, so it wouldn't even make sense. And we've actually heard some lawmakers suggest people should wear masks at home when they're alone. I mean, they've completely have crossed the line. And now people have been asking me what I think about this. Do you think the COVID-19 vaccines will be mandatory? Will Americans be forced to take the vaccine?
No. Stephanie, they're testing them on children at Cincinnati Hospital near my district, and they're paying parents to enroll their children in these tests. Why would you give a vaccine to a cohort where there's less risk than let's say, the cold or the flu to children? And so what that tells me is somebody has in their mind that they're going to make these vaccines maybe not mandatory, but they will coerce you into making them essentially mandatory by excluding you maybe from school if you're a child and you don't have the vaccine. These are my concerns, and I think it's too early. You know, we need a lot more results. The vaccine reports that have come out say they're efficacious to 90+%, but they're measuring efficacy 7 days after you get the second vaccine shot. And I think that's ridiculous. They still don't know what the mal effects of the vaccine could be. And so I won't be the first one in line. Everybody needs to make their own decision. The elderly may want to get this, even though there may be some risk associated with it, but that's because the risk to COVID is greater. But everybody needs to make their own decision, and there's no constitutional authority, in my opinion, for the federal government to stick a needle in you.
Yeah. And you see the polling on this, if you believe the polls, some 60–70% of Americans said, yeah, they're willing to take a vaccine if it's, totally safe, they would do it. But the other people, these are a lot of the people who don't even get the flu shot. So they're saying, well, I don't ever get the flu shot, and I also don't want to be forced into getting a COVID-19 vaccine. So I could see where they're coming from. Now, I wanted to get your reaction to the U.S. Drawdown of troops in Afghanistan. Obviously, the dishonest Democrats are up in arms about this because President Trump and his administration can't do anything right. So we can't listen to them. But there are Republicans who are also livid and furious about this decision, including Mitch McConnell.
Oh, well, listen, I'm happy that Donald Trump is bringing troops home. This is one of his promises, and I spoke to him about this last January. He's the first president since I've been able to vote for president who hasn't started a war. And if you just look at the numbers don't lie. Even though we still have troops in Afghanistan, the activity has gone down there and our troops are safer. There were 630 military casualties under Bush. There were 1,758 military casualties under Obama. And as of this summer, there were only 63 casualties total in Afghanistan under Donald Trump. That's the most underreported news of the whole his whole presidency. That this has been the most peaceful time in America's history in the last 40 years. I wish people would report on that more, and thank you for covering it.
Yeah, well, they won't report on it, and again, they don't want to give him any wins. They don't even want to have a conversation about it, and if you talk to people who've served, many of them agree with this decision. Well, Congressman, we're out of time. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.